For hundreds of thousands of years, humans were essentially passengers of nature. We wandered the landscape, chipping away at heavy rocks to make crude hand axes that were used for scraping meat off a carcass or cracking open tough nuts. Then, roughly 12,000 years ago, the Earth's climate grew warmer and wetter. This was the start of the Holocene epoch. Ecosystems shifted, and mammoths and other massive prey began to die off. With the megafauna gone, humans had to track down smaller, faster animals and rely more on wild plants. A heavy 20-pound rock axe was no longer effective for a population forced to catch quick-moving gazelles. This forced the development of microliths, razor-sharp stone blades no bigger than a fingernail. Toolmakers used precision pressure flaking techniques to peel these tiny blades off a larger stone core. By carving grooves into wood or bone and embedding these microliths inside, humans created the first compound tools. These barbed arrows and curved sickles allowed for precision hunting and the efficient harvesting of wild grasses. Designing complex tools from multiple parts allowed humans to engineer their surroundings to match their specific needs. We see the early stages of this at the Ohala II archaeological site in Israel. Evidence shows that 23,000 years ago, humans were already identifying, harvesting, and grinding specific wild grains long before formal agriculture existed. At the ancient site of Gilgal, the evidence becomes more intentional. Researchers found that people were cutting living branches from fig trees and pressing them directly into the soil to grow new trees on demand. This is domestication, the shift from gathering what nature randomly provides to intentionally planting and controlling the life cycle of a species. Putting a crop in the ground requires staying in one place to protect it. That decision to cultivate food ended the nomadic way of life. This agricultural shift erupted in 4 major river valleys: the Tigris and Euphrates, Nile, Huanghe, and Indus and Saraswati systems. Zooming into the Indian subcontinent, sites like Mehrgarh and Lahura Dewa show populations settling down to cultivate wheat, barley, and rice. Tending to these crops is a year-round commitment. Land must be cleared, new seeds planted, and fields weeded, making seasonal migration impossible for a farming community. This creates a demographic trap. To handle the constant physical labor and maintain a self-sustaining village, a community needs a minimum critical mass of roughly 50 to 100 people living together. When 100 people stop moving, they build with earth and stone. At settlements like Jericho, we see the results of this permanent architecture: deep excavation trenches and massive stone walls. Agriculture acted as an engine, locking humans into dense, stationary, and interdependent communities for the first time. Because these communities were stationary, they could finally accumulate possessions. Individuals were no longer limited to what they could carry on their backs. A successful harvest meant extra grain, but stored food attracts moisture and pests. Villagers needed a way to keep their surplus dry and safe. The solution was advanced pottery for durable storage vessels. It involved sourcing specific clay, shaping the vessel, and baking it at 900 degrees. Managing this complex process required full-time attention. This birthed the artisan class, people who didn't farm but traded their technical skills for food. The wooden wheel accelerated this process. It allowed potters to mass-produce vessels on a spinning wheel, while animal-drawn carts enabled those goods to be traded over long distances. A reliable surplus of food created a surplus of time, turning isolated farming villages into connected trade networks. Generations of people working the same plot of dirt established a new sense of territoriality and individual property rights. As populations grew, managing finite resources became a challenge. Thousands of people sharing irrigation water and fertile silt meant that informal agreements were no longer enough to prevent conflict. Survival in these dense settings required formal social rules. We see the emergence of central administrations designed to manage resource disputes and enforce community laws. To house these administrators, traders, and artisans, villages expanded. The ruins at Mohenjo-Daro reveal strict urban planning and imposing central structures, marking the transition from farming communes to true cities. Managing a city's economy, tracking grain stores, taxes, and property lines required more than memory. Administrators needed a way to record their society, leading to the invention of written language. The archaeologist Gordon Childe called this the Neolithic Revolution, a chain reaction started by a single seed that built the foundations for property, law, and the modern city.